most of you in Stark County leadership would joke about or despair about the parochialism within the county. Canton is not Massillon, Massillon is not Jackson Township, Jackson Township is not Plain Township, Plain Township is not you name it. So what do we do to overcome that if overcoming that is the key to collectively making progress? What can we do that we haven't done before, or do we just sit around and joke about our in-county rivalries? What could we be doing? What could we be doing to bring people together on that? Adrian.
I think that one of the things we could be looking at is aggregating the data. Because when you look at the aggregated data, it is a different picture than when you look at the individual data. And it makes for just a real picture of what a group collectively could do. So you've seen the data that we put together with regard to all of the school districts' performance. When you look at that, it was just astonishing. If you look at each individual school district and the number of students that were served, it's not as significant as looking at 64,000 students all put together in the county. If you began to do that for all of the counties, at least in the education sector, and if you did it in the higher education sector, I think what you would see is a very big picture of what's happening. So don't you, for example, what the town of Canton has been looking at what would happen if we had more students complete more degrees, what would happen to the economic impact, how does that work, and so forth, and we have increased the number of degrees. But I guess my question is of Brad, and that is, how does this all go together with the efforts that are being made with Rex?
So this, there is an effort that involves a number of people in this room in which the philanthropic community is partnering with the business community to see whether we can align the philanthropic and business investments around the regional strategy. It's something called the Regional Economic Competitiveness Strategy. It's chaired by Bill Christopher, former executive from Alcoa, and Tim Timken from this part of the region sits on the small executive committee. So this data and other data is the underpinning of that regional strategy work. How and that regional strategy is across several pieces. Some of it's about how can we create a set of new industries or help existing industries transition into higher growth areas. But then it also recognizes the other pieces of the equation. It's business, it's people then, and this evidence, of course, reinforces that that we need to be investing not only in workforce but in education. And so there's a set of initiatives in and around that, and then the other one is around place. And this question of, well, if we have public investments, they're public investments in what? What are the place-based investments? What's happening with infrastructure and the like? And that's where some of the collaborations with the planning groups and so forth. And so this hopefully is the analytic underpinning for a lot of that work. That is then translating to some initiatives that are regional in scope, or even statewide in scope. How can we get the Ohio Capital Fund renewed? But then it also really will rest on what happens in a local community. And so Steve Paquette is on a team that's looking at how does the retention and expansion activities get coordinated better. Or Denny and Dave, I believe, have been leading the charge in thinking about how do we get not only the Ohio Capital Fund renewed, but then how are we spurring entrepreneurship here in the Stark community. So just to wrap up then on this, but what we need then is, to your point, Adrian, this common shared view of what is the data that we're all going to keep score by, and then hopefully we also get agreement on what success looks like. And if success is we're saying, look, we want good jobs on an enduring basis, and any jobs are a bridge to good jobs, but it's ultimately about good jobs. And then if we all say, well, that's the goal, then we can start self-organizing ourselves to get ahead.
You know, one of the observations about changes in Stark County from my perspective, so we're through a generational change where people probably today 40, 35 to 50. Many of them were told you didn't have to have higher education because you would work for some of our largest companies and, you know, I mean, they're great jobs, great benefits. And today, when you sit in and out of sessions where you're looking at students talking about why they're in college or why they're getting more education, it's because they realize there's no transition. You know, today they have to make it on their own. So often you go to college students and say, why are you here? The answer is because, you know, I need to support myself in the future. So that's a big change in Stark County. And I think it's been evidenced probably about the last 10 years. People really start to get that. That's why you have Stark State growing from 4,000 people to 16,000 now. I mean, big numbers because people get now, I've got to make it for myself. So somehow you have to factor that in. And then, you know, as a community, you've always got to be aware of what the region's doing and find out where you're similar and where you can be unique. And so, you know, the way a community works with the region is you take the best of the region, but you try to differentiate yourself so that people say, well, yeah, you got to work this here and that. So it's a very complicated change, but I think, you know, people in this room get it and are trying in different fields to make that transition as well.